Picture a dirt road in Alaska where the wind cuts like a blade, the sky looks endless, and a steel chain hangs across the entrance. No welcome, no noise from visitors, just the clear message that the work inside is nobody else's business. The season had been a grind of long days, short nights, and cold machines that only warmed up after a fight. Then, the ground finally started paying back in a big way. That's when the gates swung shut, and the story got louder than ever outside the fence. This is the moment that turns a mining season into a mystery. A young miner put everything on the line: money, time, reputation, and found a run that could change a life in a single season. If that sounds dramatic, it's because the stakes were real. The costs never stop in Alaska: fuel, wages, parts, hauling. Every hour is either profit or pain. When the ounces started stacking up fast, the plan shifted from open roads to locked access. The goal was simple: keep focus tight, keep distractions out, and pull gold while the ground was hot. Here's why that decision matters. In a gold camp, word travels faster than any truck. One good cleanout becomes 10 different stories by nightfall. Some tales are harmless, but some draw extra eyes and extra pressure. Locking the gate is not about being unfriendly. It's about control. The crew still has to dig, fix, and run. The hours still have to spin. The difference is that the noise stays outside so the work can keep moving inside. But a gate is never just a gate out here. It's a line between what people think is happening and what actually is. To understand why someone would close that line so hard, you have to start earlier. Back when the plan was only a map, a hunch, and a promise that the next cut could be the one. And that takes us to the bet that began before any gate was ever locked. Most teenagers save for school, a car, or a first apartment. This teenager chose something different: dirt that might hold gold. Maybe a little, maybe a lot. That choice wasn't cute or reckless. It was a plan with a timer on it. Because in Alaska, the window to dig is short and the cold is always waiting. The bet was personal money on a piece of ground that looked right on paper and felt right under boots. The target wasn't a jar of flakes on a shelf. The target was a long run, enough to justify the heavy iron, the long haul roads, and the full crew that a serious mine needs. With a plan like that, there's only one way to test it. Start moving earth. The first stage is never glamorous. You strip layers that don't pay. You dig into frozen ground that fights back. You pay for diesel you can't afford to waste. You mark each stretch with stakes and notes, then do it again. At the same time, you chase signs, sand, and gravel that look right. Lines in the cut that hint at old rivers. Little flashes in a test pan that say the ground might be waking up. Every step is money up front and hope in the back pocket. There's also the human side. A teenager asking experienced hands to follow a plan is a trial by fire. Respect doesn't happen because of a last name or a TV show. Respect happens when the numbers add up, the gear gets fixed fast, and the person in charge owns the hard calls. Out here, nobody cares about speeches. They care about ounces per hour and yards moved by sundown. Either you hit targets or you don't. That's the pressure that shaped the season before a single big cleanup ever hit the scale. The big picture goal was clear: build a strong base in Alaska that could carry into future years. That means proving, not guessing. It means weeks of spending before a dollar comes back. And it means one more choice that would define the entire run. Split the work into 2 tracks and run them together, even if it doubled the stress. Because sometimes the only way forward is to chase tomorrow and pay for today at the exact same time. Imagine a coin spinning in the cold air. On one side, a crew focused on groundwork, cut new roads, strip frozen layers, carve down 30 feet if needed to reach the pay that actually matters. This is slow and expensive, and there's no immediate gold to show anyone. On the other side, a crew hunting for cash flow now. Scan every inch, test smarter. Move the excavator a few feet if the last trench came up empty. When it lands, it really lands. When it misses, it burns time you don't have. The Wolf Cut team handled the long game. Their job was to make the ground ready so a plant could actually process it when the window opened. That means pushing heat into the earth, letting it thaw, and peeling off layer after layer until the right material sits where a loader can scoop. It's hard to stay motivated when the sluice box is quiet and the tally stays at 0. But without this grind, there is no season. The Drift Cut team ran the short game. Their mission was to find solid pay fast. That requires patience and discipline. You can be meters from a fortune and never see it if you stop one trench too soon. Every move matters. Every test pan tells a story. The team watches the dirt, the way water runs in the riffles, the feel of gravel under a boot heel. It's not luck, it's pattern recognition, earned one bucket at a time. This setup builds a certain kind of pressure. One side spends money to secure next month. The other side works to cover yesterday's bill right now. Radios carry updates that hit like wins or losses. More thawed ground means momentum. Another empty trench means the clock just got louder. Fuel trucks keep rolling. Shift managers balance hours. Mechanics chase gremlins before they become shutdowns. There's no drama music out here, just the steady beat of machines and the math you can't ignore. And then, like most real turning points, the change doesn't come with fireworks. It starts with a few better test pans, a stronger line of material, and a run that suddenly looks and feels right. The quiet part is over. The ground is ready to talk. One day the pay starts to act like pay. The right color shows in the riffles. The tailings stack up faster. The loader doesn't waste cycles on junk. At Wolf Cut, after weeks of hard prep, the first solid test runs come through clean. The indicator is simple. The sluice catches more than it loses. That's when the long game starts paying for itself. The team that spent so long moving dirt finally gets to move gold. Almost at the same time, the drift cut crew lands on a stretch that makes the books breathe easier. When a funding vein appears, it doesn't just keep the lights on, it pushes the whole plan into motion. Suddenly, the season has two engines. One builds tomorrow's production, the other feeds today's costs. Crew morale changes instantly when both engines fire together. People stand taller, the pace picks up, and the shop finally gets to work on upgrades instead of emergency fixes. This is where you start tracking real targets. Ounces per hour, hours per day, days without downtime. Hit those and the total climbs fast. Miss them and the window closes before you know it. The trick is to keep the flow steady without breaking the gear. The feeling on site shifts from holding your breath to taking long, steady pulls of air. Everyone knows they're finally over the first hill, but gold mining is honest in one harsh way. When the ground gives you a little more, the machines often try to take it back. Heavy iron does not care if you're on a streak. Screens tear, bearings fail, belts slip. A tiny error becomes a full shutdown. And when a shutdown hits in Alaska, the meter keeps running even if the plant doesn't. The season just got fun and dangerous. The next challenge is the one every miner knows by heart. Win the fight with steel. A wash plant is a hungry thing. It wants dirt, water, and attention. It also wants parts you don't have on hand at the worst possible moment. One key screen starts to sag, and suddenly rocks that should have stayed out get inside where they jam everything. A tailings conveyor decides it won't track. A pump throws a fit. The sound goes from a steady hum to a cough that makes every neck on site turn at once. The fix is never just a part swap. It's a full dance with big components, tight clearances, and cold metal that fights every bolt. Crews line up chains, finesse heavy pieces with an excavator, and nudge a tube into perfect place like it's a violin, not a steel monster. When everything finally sits right, the first startup after a rebuild is a breath everyone holds without saying. If the plant runs smooth, the whole camp resets. If it coughs, you're climbing again. On this run, one plant, Big Red, showed its age. That happens to good machines that have already earned their names. The answer was to wrench hard, replace the problem screen, and keep the rest of the system tuned so the box could do its job. At the same time, the second plant, nicknamed Slucifer, found a rhythm that pushed cleanouts into new territory. When both plants are behaving, the phrase ounces per hour stops being a wish and becomes the line the team tries to hold or beat, shift after shift. That's when morale becomes fuel. Crews put in extra to protect the flow. Mechanics stay a step ahead. Operators run smarter lines through the cuts so every bucket counts. Cleanout days start to feel unreal in the best way. Pans that once showed crumbs now look like a promise you you can actually measure. The tally grows, and so does the attention from the outside world. Attention is a cost. It brings visitors, rumors, and pressure that doesn't help pull a single ounce. The smart move is to protect the run while it's hot, which is why the gates closed and the plan tightened. There's strategy in a quiet yard. Closing access is not about hiding. It's about keeping eyes on the work and hands on the levers. When a claim starts producing at a level that turns heads, you have to guard three things: time, focus, and information. Time can disappear in small talks at the wrong hour. Focus cracks when extra trucks show up to watch. Information leaks without even trying. A rumor about a rich strip can draw crowds. A photo from the wrong angle can trigger news stories that bring more noise. So the call is simple: fewer distractions, more runs, and a clean line from ground to scale. The crew still has to deliver. The target is still ounces per hour and hours per day. But the pad doesn't turn into a parade. The result is a season total that looks more like a steep curve than a flat line. On paper, the number shines. On site, it means bills paid, bonuses earned, and the space to plan the next move with a clear head. Any big number in a public show brings debate. Some people treat totals as headlines to argue over. Others look at the work and see the pattern that got them there. Prep that felt endless, plants that finally sang, and a string of days where luck didn't have to carry anything because the system worked. Both takes will always exist, and that's fine. What matters in camp is that the run stayed protected long enough to finish strong. There's a rule in mining that never stops being true. When you finally catch a good streak, you don't share it until it's done. Not because you're selfish, but because gold is the kind of thing that stays quiet for people who stay focused. The world outside the fence kept talking anyway, and the topics were not just about ounces. Every hit show draws theories. Fans love to solve puzzles, and a gold show gives them a lot to work with: maps, weights, edits, and moments that look too perfect to be real. One common theory in fan circles claims that if a final episode is close to a season goal, some unseen hand might help the numbers land right on cue. It's a catchy idea that gets clicks. It's also unproven. What's real is the pressure to finish a story in a way that feels satisfying. What's also real is the cold math on a mine site where dirt, water, and steel don't care what day it is. Another thread in the chatter looks at personal life. Long seasons, long distances, phones that buzz at midnight because a pump failed. None of that is easy on relationships. Crew changes become headlines too. A good foreman leaves to start a new outfit. Another longtime hand tries his own claim. Business deals with neighbors and landlords become internet debates, with people guessing at royalty splits and arguing about land use like they were in the room. The truth is usually less dramatic and more complicated than a comment thread wants it to be. Here's the balance you can actually see. The ground paid because the plan kept pressure on both ends. Build tomorrow's runway while today's costs get covered. The team ate the slow work at Wolfcut, then rode the breakthrough when it finally came. The shop fought through breakdowns until the plants lined up. And when the cleanouts got big, the operation didn't show off. It locked down. That choice cut noise and added ounces. It also fed the narrative that something secret was happening. There's a human bill too. A season like that burns energy you don't get back right away. It costs sleep, weekends, and quiet dinners you promised and then missed. That's part of the story of any big push, not just this one. The upside is real. A number that sets a new mark. A crew that gets bonuses they won't forget. And a mind that can look ahead instead of just catching up. The downside is also real. Fences, rumors, and the feeling that even when you win, you have to defend the win from 1,000 guesses. So what did the gate actually protect? The obvious answer is ounces. The better answer is the work. The crew earned a bubble where they could finish what they started without extra eyes. That bubble is small, temporary, and hard to keep. When it holds, the results look like a highlight reel built from long, quiet hours no one will ever see. And that brings the story back to the place where we started. A road, a chain, and a choice.